Somewhere in the galaxy, a planet named Chiton exists under the dictatorship of Admiral Skorba, whose evil means have forced a scientist named Jan and his wife to create an ultimate weapon, a baby with superpowers, to fight against the dictator. However, their plan is thwarted after Skorba gets tipped off and reaches the lab with his men to take care of the situation. Left with no choice, they put the baby in a spaceship and send him to the most advanced zone on Earth, the United States of America, in the hopes of saving him so that one day, when he is all grown up, he'll come back to save them and the people of this planet. Skorba soon enters the lab with his men and demands to know where they have hidden the baby, but when he gets no answer, he threatens to destroy them and their lab. Just then, Skorba's daughter, Agatha, interjects and wants to help her dad to prove her worth. She uses telepathy to read Jan's mind and find out where the baby spaceship is headed. Skorba finally gives her a chance to prove herself worthy of the throne and sends her to capture the baby alive. Agatha leaves in another space capsule and chases the baby's ship. And as she nears, the baby spaceship collides with a Hispasit satellite. The impact diverts the spaceship's trajectory, and it ends up landing in Spain, while Agatha lands in the United States. The baby spaceship catches fire by the time it reaches Spain, and coincidentally, the Lopez couple witnesses the crash and rushes towards it. Upon hearing a baby cooing from inside the capsule, Mrs. Lopez proposes they keep the baby as it is a blessing from heaven. However, Mr. Lopez thinks otherwise upon witnessing a thick stash on the baby, and he realizes he is right after the baby breaks Mr. Lopez's finger as he grabs it. Regardless, the family decides to adopt the baby with super strength, which baffles everybody as he grows up. His parents want him to keep his powers a secret so that he is not alienated for being an alien and have a normal life. Time flies by, and Lopez is now in his 30s, working in a company. He has learned to live without using his powers in front of others, most of the time, and uses them only in an emergency, like the day he slept in. His friend and boss, Jaime, has hired a new employee, Luisa, because he likes her and wants Lopez to help him out. But Lopez is reluctant. He was in the same college as Luisa, and she is attracted to Lopez and creeped out by Jaime. Lopez is also smitten by her and asks her out on a pizza date, which she readily agrees. Returning from the date, Lopez is waiting for his train in the subway when one of the trains loses control due to brake failure. Soon, the subway is filled with screams as no one knows what to do when Lopez sees an encouraging poster that says, "It's time, take the step." It inspires Lopez to take action, and he uses his super speed to surpass the train and tries to stop it. But when it doesn't work, he reaches the next station and uses the rubber fire hose to create a barrier resembling a slingshot that catapults the train back, saving, probably, all the passengers on board and the subway. He quickly makes his way out to avoid attracting more attention that he already has. Unbeknownst to him, the incident was not an accident, but caused by Agatha's minions, the clones made by her company's technology, to find Lopez. The incident was also recorded, which is seen by Agatha, now the owner of the biggest tech company in the world. Agatha immediately visits Spain and, during an interview with the press, without taking any names, asks Lopez to meet her. She is happy that she can finally go home and contacts her father to come for her, but Skorba is not very pleased as it took her 30 years to find the ultimate weapon. Her success and the advancement of her technology on Earth fail to impress Skorba, but he agrees to come and warns Agatha that if she doesn't have Jan's son with her, he will raise the planet along with her. Agatha has created an ultrasound machine that transmits sound that only Lopez can hear. While on his way to a dinner date with Luisa, he gets a throbbing pain when Agatha suddenly starts talking to him through the machine and asks him to meet her. Coincidentally, he gets off the bus near her company building and goes inside to meet Agatha, who is waiting for him. She tells him of his true origins and the fact that they are from another planet. Lopez refuses to believe what Agatha just told him and starts to leave, but Agatha calls her minions to stop him. However, Lopez is much stronger than them, and even though he doesn't want to fight, he inadvertently defeats them and escapes. Agatha won't let him off the hook that easily and finds out about Luisa from the card she finds in Lopez's jacket that he had left there after the fight. She then uses the wireless vacuum manufactured by her company in Lopez's office to access Luisa's data and DNA. Jaime is in the office when he finds the vacuum attached to one of the computers and tries to unplug it but gets electrocuted. And suddenly, the vacuum turns into a six-legged robot and starts attacking Jaime. He manages to break it apart using a coat hanger, and upon realizing it is stealing Luisa's DNA, he calls her multiple times. After being stood up, Luisa is drunk and returns home to find Lopez outside her door. She shows her displeasure for bailing on her and mocks him for not accepting his feelings for her. Lopez finally gives in and kisses her before leaving, but all this is witnessed by Jaime, who had come to warn Luisa after she ignored his numerous calls. Just then, Agatha arrives in her van and asks Jaime to join her in return for a copy of Luisa she has created with the information she stole. Lopez reaches home to confront his parents about his origin and finds out he indeed is from outer space. They show him the spaceship they found him in, and as he places his hand on the side of the ship, it activates a holographic message from Jan, his biological father, explaining his abilities and the circumstances on their planet. Now that his origin is known and his creation has a purpose, Mr. and Mrs. Lopez convince him to try to learn how to use his powers, as the people on his planet need him. Mrs. Lopez also decides to use his baby blanket to make a costume for him that turns out to be horrendous looking on him. Mr. Lopez also convinces him to learn to fly, as it might come in handy one day, and takes him to the top of his garage, from where he jumps but lands on his face. He gives up but accidentally discovers that by making a rock sign, he levitates, and when he does it with both hands, he can fly. Mrs. Lopez makes him wear the superhero suit inside his clothes, and as they are arguing about it, the doorbell rings. Agatha and Jaime have sent robot Luisa to his house to persuade him to return to his planet. They first try a soft approach, but when Lopez confesses he needs to tell Jaime about him dating Luisa because he is the only friend he has had, Jaime cries and can't move forward with the plan. So Agatha takes things into her control and starts attacking Lopez through Luisa. Lopez realizes it is not Luisa and destroys her by smacking her head off. With her plan to bring Lopez back down the drain, Agatha decides to kidnap the real Luisa, but Jaime refuses to help and is held captive. Sensing danger to Luisa's life, Lopez briskly makes his way to her, but gets caught up in a squabble at a park with other men dressed as superheroes, and Luisa is also kidnapped by Agatha. Lopez follows Agatha to her office and finds Jaime and Luisa tied, but as soon as he tries to free them, Agatha uses her ultrasonic machine to create a high-pitched frequency that makes Lopez suffer. To help him, Jaime and Luisa start insulting him, which enrages Lopez, and he slowly starts overpowering the ultrasonic waves and creates an escape route for the three. Meanwhile, Skorba reaches Earth and is eager to meet Jan's son. Agatha takes him to the chamber she had trapped Lopez, but finding it empty, Skorba starts insulting her for her incapacities. Enraged, Agatha pulls out her father's life support and kills him before earning his appreciation for becoming truly evil. She gains the throne and follows Lopez to his home to create havoc on the planet, starting with his place. As soon as she lands, she transforms her throne into a giant mecha robot and is about to stomp on Lopez and his family when Mr. Lopez uses his shotgun to distract Agatha but gets sucked into the mech's vacuum. Lopez finally accepts his abilities and starts fighting back as Super Lopez but gets tossed by the mech. He lands in the football stadium during a match between FC Barcelona and Villarreal. Lopez rips off the goal net and flies back, where Agatha continues to attack his family. Lopez throws the net, intending to immobilize the mech, but accidentally drops it on his mom, who also gets sucked into it. Agatha proceeds to stomp on Lopez, but Jaime's plan to distract her also goes futile, and he ends up with Mr. and Mrs. Lopez inside the mech. Agatha is about to end Lopez once and for all when Luisa comes out of the garage driving Lopez's truck and shouts his name. Lopez gains consciousness after hearing Luisa's voice, and seeing Agatha aiming for Luisa, Lopez rips off the vacuum arm. He uses his ice-cold breath on the windshield and pushes the mech into the pool. The mech trips over Lopez's truck that Luisa left parked near the pool, and the water destroys the mech's functioning. Mr. and Mrs. Lopez and Jaime emerge out of the water unscathed. Mr. Lopez reminds Lopez on his duties on his planet Chiton, but Lopez asks her not to worry, as he has it all planned. Sometime later, Skorba's spaceship returns to Chiton with Agatha tied, and a man named Juan, picked from the park dressed as a superhero, who everyone believes to be Lopez, including his parents, and he is appointed as the new leader, much to Agatha's astonishment. Back on Earth, Lopez is now an official superhero, much to the press and public's chagrin. But that doesn't stop Lopez from fulfilling his duties. Luisa and Lopez start dating, but Lopez being late on the dates becomes a reason for their constant bickering. On one such date, as they're about to leave the restaurant, Lopez asks for the check, but the server tells him his bill is covered and points to a hooded man sucking on a pacifier. The man addresses him as Super Lopez and says he owes him one before teleporting away, leaving a glowing pacifier behind. And that's a wrap for this movie recap. Thanks for watching.